Shalom friends, Aaron here. I was going to read a couple articles. I don't know if I'm going to bother reading them. There was an article in Forbes, James Corbett from the Corbett Report. If you've not checked out the Corbett Report, James is a fantastic researcher. And, YouTubers are belittled. He's an independent journalist, and he's sharp, and he does more research than most of the talking heads you see on TV making a bunch of money. That's the fact. James, he made a good point not to give these people their clicks. But you can go to Forbes and check it out. And this was an article that was written on July 30th, so not quite a month ago, by a guy. I'm going to leave his thumbnail on here. Ethan Siegel. I'm just going to kind of zoom down here and tell you about Ethan Siegel. His little thumbnail, I guess he's supposed to look like Poseidon, the sea god or something. Very professional. He's shirtless, a big fake beard, with a really ridiculous, drunken, goofy look on his face. And he tells you all about himself. He's so awesome. I am a PhD astrophysicist, author, and science communicator who professes physics and astronomy at various colleges. I've won numerous awards, blah, 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 frickin' blah. He's an idiot. I'm going to read it. I was going to read it. Alright. I'll probably skip ahead here. You must not do your own research. Research both sides and make up your mind. Simple, straightforward, common sense advice when it comes to issues like vaccinations, climate change, and the novel coronavirus. It can be dangerous, destructive, and even deadly. The techniques that most of us use to navigate our decisions in life, gathering information, evaluating it based on what we know, choosing a course of action, can lead to spectacular failures when it comes to scientific matter. Now, he talks about fluoridated water. I'm not even going to get into this. I put a video up about fluoridation. Scroll on back there and find it. What he talks about is nonsense, because he doesn't even talk about the same fluoride ions that are being used to fluoridate our water. So it's fluorinate. Not even the same. He talks about how safe it is. I'm not even going to get into that. He talks about climate change. I'm not even going to get into that. So I'm going to skip over that stuff. But if you want to find out about fluoride, I talk about some of the history of fluoride being used in municipal water systems, and talk about some of the problems associated with fluoride, and explain why we don't drink fluorinated water. I want to say fluoridated because it's fluoride, but it's fluoridated. I'm almost positive. Anyhow, let's see. He goes on to say here, Ethan, the reason is simple. Most of us, even those of us who are scientists ourselves, lack the relevant scientific expertise needed to adequately evaluate that research on our own. In our own fields, we're aware of the full suite of data and how those puzzle pieces fit together and what the frontiers of our knowledge is. When laypersons espouse opinions on those matters, it's immediately clear to us where the gaps in their understanding are and where they've misled themselves in their reasoning. When they take up the arguments of a contrarian scientist, we recognize what they're overlooking. He's so condescending. Misinterpreting or omitting. Unless we start valuing the actual expertise of legitimate experts that have spent lifetimes developing this expertise, doing our own research, quote unquote, could lead to immeasurable unnecessary suffering. Check out the video that I made about who do you trust. Just talking about what's wrong with Americans. All of our problems, our health problems, our issues. And why are you trusting these trusted medical experts? Let's start with a simple, low-stakes example. Fluorinated. He says fluoridated. I think it's fluorinated water. But anyway. Not low stakes. Not by any means. But I'm not going to go. He goes on and on and on about this fluoride in the water. I'm not going to read that. Yeah, where is he now? There's an old saying he says that he's grown quite fond of recently. You can't unreason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. When most of us research an issue, what we're actually doing is formulating an initial opinion the first time we hear about something. Yeah, maybe. Evaluating everything we encounter after that through that lens of our gut instinct. Maybe not. Finding reasons to think positively about the portions of the narrative that support or justify our initial opinion. Not so much. And finding reasons to discount or otherwise dismiss the portions that detract from it. Of course, that's not what we think we're doing. We think of ourselves as the heroes of our stories, cutting through misinformation and digging up the real truth on the matter. We think that just by applying our brain power and our critical reasoning skills, my critical reasoning skills, by the way, by whatever measures they test, are really good. And I don't drink the fluoride in the water, which isn't good for your brain. We think that just applying our reasoning skills, we can discern whose opinions are trustworthy and responsible. Not yours, partner. We think that we can see through who's a charlatan and a fraud, and we can tell what's safe and effective and what's dangerous and ineffective. Except for almost all of us, we can't. Except for almost all of us. Ethan can. Not you, not me. Even those of us with excellent critical thinking skills, like Ethan, and lots of experience trying to dig up the truth behind a variety of claims, are lacking one important asset: the scientific expertise necessary to understand any finds or claims in the context of the full state of knowledge of your field. It's part of why scientific consensus is so remarkably valuable. If you're not part of the scientific consensus, then you are discredited and not counted. That's a fact. Fact. But don't believe me, I only know that because I did my own research. I'm not going to read this guy. Well, scientific consensus is one of the most valuable types of expertise that humanity has ever developed. I'll tell you a valuable expertise. Take care of your own self. Take responsibility for yourself. You got kids? Dig deep daily. Be a good mom or a good dad. I'll tell you what you can be an expert at. Trying to follow some very simple rules. Love your neighbors yourself. Be an expert at that. That's a hell of a lot more valuable than scientific consensus, which is a farce. But only if we listen to it. It's absolutely foolish to think that you, a non-expert who lacks the very scientific expertise necessary to evaluate the claims of experts, are going to do a better job than the actual bona fide experts, he really likes that word, of separating the truth from fiction or fraud. When we do the research ourselves, we almost always wind up digging in deeper to our own knee-jerk positions rather than deferring to the professional opinions of the consensus of experts. You can go back and look at everything that I've had to say about the boogeyman that's out there. And, you know, my thoughts about it changed. Yeah. My thoughts about covering my face changed. Yeah, you know, I did my own research. I bought some research equipment, too. And he's going to talk about drinking water with fluoride, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to read that. Oh, he's an idiot. Oh, God, then he talks about how great vaccines are. Then he talks about climate change. I'm not going to talk about any of that. I just want to get to his condescending. Right now, as we enter the month of August during the year 2020, it's a critical time for the United States and the world. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. As the novel coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 and the disease that it causes in humans, COVID-19, has caused the lives of more than 2/3 of a million people. in the United States alone, more than 150,000 have died. 168, 170,000 now? With each new day adding an average of over 1,000 new deaths at present. Although there's still much to learn about the science of this, from how it spreads to who is most likely to spread it, to what the best treatments are, to the true infection rate, and so on, blah, blah, blah. Not going to read all that. But even those basic messages, like cover your face, for which there's virtually no scientific doubt surrounding them, have sparked enormous amounts of controversy. Despite the safety and efficacy of masks, many are refusing to wear them, leading to spikes in new infections. It's my fault. No, it's not. Despite the importance of avoiding close contact with others not part of our household, many people continue to visit friends and relatives. Bastards! It's evil. Accelerating the spread of the disease. Despite the fact that over 150,000 Americans have already died from it, and many continue to claim it's just like the flu, blah, 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 blah. If you do your own research, you can no doubt find innumerable websites, social media accounts, and even a handful of medical professionals who are sharing opinions that confirm whatever your preconceived notions about COVID are. However, do not fool yourself. You are not doing research. You are seeking information to confirm your own biases and discredit any contrary opinions. And each time you do this, you exemplify the problem of anti-science bias that our wonderful Dr. Fauci has warned about. If you go by the evidence and the data, you're speaking the truth, and it's amazing sometimes the denial there is. It's the same thing that gets people who are anti-vaxxers, who don't want people to get vaccinated. Do what you want, by the way. Do whatever you want. Leave me alone. Don't want people to get vaccinated. Even though the data clearly indicates the safety of vaccines, that's really a problem. If anything is super safe, if it's really safe, then the people who make the safe things should be liable in case they're not. Is that the case? There is no excuse with all of the wonderful scientists and science communicators like Ethan. Communicators. Telling the truth. He's telling the truth. About a whole slew of issues in our world for people to seek out only the opinions that confirm their own biases. There's no excuse for it. The best scientists in the world, even the ones who hold contrarian beliefs of their own, all agree, all, that we should base our policies on the scientific consensus that we've achieved. And when that consensus changes, evolves, or moves forward, like, hey, let's don't, market Quaalude as a drug anymore. Look into that. Even though we put it on the market for, 30 years or something. Or another one that I can't think of, DES I think it was, that I mentioned in my other video about drugs and who do you trust and why and blah, blah, blah. 55 years on the market, supposedly preventing miscarriage. But, it causes all sorts of birth defects and, cervical cancer and breast cancer and death to the third generation. For real. But hey, when the consensus changes and evolves or moves forward because we've learned more than we previously knew, we should correct course and follow that novel path instead. Novel. New, new, but also not real novel. Interesting use, let's call it new instead of novel, I guess, maybe. But that requires a kind of transformation within yourself. Self-helping us here, okay? Pay close attention to what Ethan Siegel says right here, because this is going to change your life. We need a kind of transformation within ourselves. It means that we need to be humble and admit that ourselves lack the necessary expertise to evaluate the science that's before us. We just can't do it. It means that you need to be brave. We're cowards. We really... I went shopping at Home Depot today without covering my face. I go shopping at Home Depot all the time without covering my face. I'm the only one in there not covering my face, except for, let's see, today I saw one woman with a mask pulled all the way off of her face. I see people with the mask like here, and I look to see if there's anybody. Sometimes I see another person. I was the only one, but I'm not brave. I'm just doing that because I'm selfish. I'm just a selfish people hater. Now, so many of those people out there covering their face up are doing it because they're guilted into it and they're not brave enough to do otherwise. I struggled with that for a little while. I really did. But I did my own research. I had not read Ethan Siegel's wonderful article here yet. I'm just going to read this last part because it's life-changing, okay? I wish I'd read this before. I did my own research into carbon dioxide, oxygen. I actually bought equipment to measure carbon dioxide and oxygen, tested it a bunch of times for myself, had my wife test it, number of different face coverings and all different sorts of situations. Came up with some really scary numbers based on the research that I unfortunately did myself into whether or not those numbers were safe for me and the sort of problems that could happen if we had those sorts of depleted oxygen levels. And because I'm reading trusted experts, so I'm a little confused. I'm reading doctors. These are trusted experts telling me that it's just not possible for carbon dioxide to build up inside of a mask, and then I can test it for myself and see that it does. I just guess that that's just knee-jerk for me. So I'm reading this last part again because I'm just hoping that Ethan can save me from myself. I need this transformation within myself. I need to be humble. Admit that I lack the next. I must not know how to use the meter. Okay, when I put it in there and measure it, I don't know how to do it. He's probably right. I can't evaluate the science before me. And I really just need to be brave enough to turn to the consensus of the scientific experts and ask legitimately, the experts, not me, what we know at the present stage. And it means you need to be open-minded enough to understand that your preconceptions are quite likely to be wrong in some, many, or possibly even all ways. I am wrong in every way, probably. I got to be open-minded and brave and humble. If we listen to the science, we can attempt to take the best path possible forward through the greatest challenges facing modern society. We can choose to ignore it, but if we do, the consequences will only increase in severity. Yeah. Thanks, Ethan. Guy's an astrophysicist. He is a qualified science communicator. So listen to him and don't listen to me. And for crying out loud, don't test to see if any of this stuff is real for yourself. Don't buy an O2 meter or a CO2 meter. Don't you dare try to test and see if you've got too much carbon dioxide inside your face covering or too little oxygen. Just don't do it. Shalom, friends.